Happy Hanukkah. We're standing here at Herodion, the only building project that Herod gave his name to. And according to Josephus, Herod was buried here. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why he gave his name to it, because he wanted to be remembered here and wanted to be buried here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the background to Hanukkah, how it connects to Herod, and also how it connects to Jesus. So in about 167 BC, the Jews rebelled against the Greeks after the Greeks were making them do Greek things, or making them worship other gods, making them worship Greek gods. There's even a tradition that they sacrificed a pig on the altar in Jerusalem, which you know was forbidden for Jews. The Maccabees revolt, violent revolt. They kick out the Greeks, and they have autonomous rule here for about 100 years before Rome comes. 63 of the Romans, Pompey comes and takes over the land. He puts a series of rulers here with again using the Hasmonean kings. The last Hasmonean king actually rebels against Rome, and he joins forces with the Parthians, which are coming from Persia or Iran today. In 40 AD, Herod flees to Rome. There he's declared the king of the land of Israel, as we call it today. And he makes his way back down to Israel, or back up to Israel, and along with some Roman legions and the help of some other Roman kings in the area, he conquers the land, and he becomes, in effect, king of Israel. That's in about 37 BC. He's not going to start building Herodion behind us until about 20 BC. I want to connect this to the New Testament. And actually, Hanukkah is not mentioned in the Old Testament because it happens later. Hanukkah is the feast of dedication, which means, what's that means in Hebrew? But if we turn to John chapter 10, verse 22, then we're going to read a little section about Jesus coming to Jerusalem during Hanukkah, during the feast of dedication. Okay, verse 22. Then came the feast of dedication at Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was in the temple walking in Solomon's colonnade. The Jews gathered around him, saying, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Christ, the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I did tell you, but you did not believe. The miracles I do in my Father's name speak for me, but you do not believe because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one." So here we have, let's see, this is probably happening somewhere around 30 AD. So about 200 years after Antiochus Epiphanes declares himself king, or not king, it declares himself God manifest in Jerusalem. Jesus is up on the in Jerusalem on the temple, and they're asking him all these questions. And Jesus says, "I and the Father are one." And another connection, if we turn to the previous chapter in John, we will read that Jesus says, "I am the light of the world." Hanukkah is also called the Festival of Lights because according to a tradition, the miracle of Hanukkah was that the oil in the temple miraculously burned for 8 days because they didn't have enough oil to bring in and add more to it. And the tradition there is that oil burned for 8 days. So it's called the Festival of Lights after that oil burning in the menorah, which is the 7 candelabra that you have in the temple. In Hanukkah, if you see a lot of people, if you may have one at home, or you may have Jewish friends or family, they will put a 9 candelabra out for Hanukkah, and that's called a Hanukkah. And what that stands for is one of those is called the shamash. This is the candle that lights the other candles. And the other 8 represent the 8 days that oil burned in the temple. So we call that Hanukkah. And that's the background for Hanukkah. And that's why. And then Jesus here is calling himself, "I am the light of the world." So we have another connection to Hanukkah. And also we read in John 10:22. When Jesus in the same place 200 years later says, it's not Antiochus Epiphanes who is God, but I am God. I and the Father are one. Hi guys, We're standing down here at the foothills of the Herodion behind me. And why we're standing here is because behind me is this huge pool. It was a swimming pool that Herod built down here. And he also has a Roman bathhouse on this side and some other things. I originally thought that maybe his tomb was over here amongst these buildings, but they couldn't find anything to prove that. But this is a huge swimming pool. It's actually about 2 times the size of an Olympic pool today. I think it's about 100 meters. Olympic pool today is 50 meters long. So this is a huge pool, and even got an island that he built in the middle. I don't know what he had there. But today we're going to go up to Herodion and see what else Herod built up there. Okay, here we are at Herodion. Behind me, we have the model of what they believe was maybe Herod's mausoleum where he was buried. If we go a little closer to it, you can see on the bottom here the black line. Now that black line you can see over here, because this is what they found here. This was found just like this. It hasn't been reconstructed. And if I turn you around like this, you can see a little bit better. You can see this side. This is how they found it. No reconstruction here. It's found like this because it was buried about up to that line of stairs, which we're going to go to in a minute. And you can see this. This is only a fraction of the size of the mausoleum that was here. And this mausoleum faces Jerusalem. If you look in that area, I don't know if it's kind of hard to see. You can see 3 towers. Those are the 3 towers that are on the Mount of Olives. You have the church, Augusta Victoria Tower, and the Tower of Hebrew U. And the tower furthest to the right or the east is the tower that's on the Mount of Olives. The most famous Israeli archaeologist that is connected to the Herodion is Professor Ehud Netzer. He started excavating here in 1972, mostly down below where we were earlier with the pool. And he was always looking for Herod's tomb. And they thought maybe it was down at the pool where we were earlier, but he couldn't find it down there. And then in 2007, they started digging in this area behind me. And that's the model right behind me. That's not full scale and obviously not the original thing, but you can see behind me the stones that they found. And there they found a corner of a sarcophagus. And a lot of people believe that today to be Herod's sarcophagus and this to be Herod's mausoleum. And as I said earlier, if I turn around, this side of the hill is facing Jerusalem, and I told you the Mount of Olives is over there. But one thing very special about this point, I told you Ehud Netzer dug at the Herodion since 1972. In 2007, he believes he found, and what many others believe he found to be Herod's tomb. So he basically found what he was looking for. In 2010, he came back with some other archaeologists and was standing actually at this point where we're standing down there, and you can see that it's a tunnel going in to the mountain, I think into a cistern. And he actually fell here. What he was leaning on, this kind of wooden bridge here collapsed, and he fell, and he died 3 days later in the hospital. So this is a tragic story, but on one hand I find something that there's a lot of beauty in it. It's a man who literally gave his life to this site, to excavating it, to uncovering the truth here, and to looking for Herod's tomb, which he found. And in the end, he literally gave his life to this place. And actually I have a little bit more of a connection with him. He would dig here in the seasons, and then he would come to where I live, Yad Shmona, where we have a hotel, and he would rent a room for several weeks, and there he would write all his reports, and became friendly with some of the families there, and some of the families invited them to their house, for a Shabbat meal, and they get to know each other and become friends. And one of these families, the man in the house is a tour guide, and they became friends. And actually this tour guide from my village was actually here guiding when Professor Ehud Netzer fell here. he didn't know what was going on, but he was guiding and he saw the ambulances, and then he learned later that he had fallen. Then, of course, like I said, 3 days later, he succumbed to his injuries in the hospital. Okay, this is really cool. This has just been opened yesterday, and these are steps. Let me turn around, you can see where they go down. Steps that they've reconstructed that were here during the time of Jesus, or actually before the time of Jesus, during Herod's time, but I'm sure they were still here when Jesus was here. And you can see these arches behind me. You can see some modern supports that they put in and some wooden steps that they put in. But all this was covered in arches. And this was the entrance into the Herodion, for the king, for Herod to come in to Herodion. So like I said, this has just been opened yesterday. Very cool to be here. You see behind me, right there, there's actually a channel that probably brought rainwater down from the top, and he had 4 different cisterns here underneath where we're standing and underneath the rest of the hill here, and I imagine this rainwater went into those cisterns. So it's very cool to be, one of the first few people to actually see this now that they've opened it up. Here you can see also a series of arches also below us, supporting the structure, and also above us. Remember, I said all this stuff was covered. Okay, so here we are on the top of Herodion. Behind me you see the full tower. This is less than half of the height of what they think that tower would have been. I can show you a model in a minute. And then around the circle you have 3 half towers. If you can see that one over there, there's one there, there's one right behind me. These stones here are the stones of that tower, and then there's one also over there which you can see. So here inside, I'm going to show you what's in there. There's a Roman bathhouse, actually one of the first, or one of the oldest dome ceilings ever found. And there's a big, what they call triclinium, like a dining room. It was later turned into a synagogue by the rebels before 70, when the Romans destroyed the temple. And there was a garden in there, but basically this was a palace, place where Herod could get away from Jerusalem, where he could be protected. This was built on a natural hill, but then built up, and you can see how high it is above the rest of their surrounding villages and everything around here. If you look over there, that's the city of Hebron, where of course Abraham and Isaac are buried. And if we look over here, we're looking towards Bethlehem. Bethlehem's kind of down in a valley, so we can't see it. And if we look over there, we can see the Mount of Olives a little bit. I know on my camera it's really hard to see, but so we have Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Hebron right here. And this, a couple reasons why he built here, but one is this is on the way to the Dead Sea, to En-Gedi, which was a huge money-making industry back during Herod's time, during Jesus' time, but also on the way to Masada, where Herod could further escape if he had to. And also, this is where he escaped a battle for his life when he was declared king by Rome, but then he had to defeat the last remaining Hasmonean king, and they had a fight down here, and he escaped. And then, according to Josephus, that was the reason why he decided to build this here, Herodion, this fortress, the only one that is called by his name, which is very interesting. Now let's go down and see if I can show you some things down there. Okay, so here we are inside Herodion, inside the fortress. Here again is the round tower. Over here we have the triclinium, or opening hall, or also could be where they ate, where they entertained guests. Here where I'm standing is filled in, so they can drive cars in here to work on everything. Over here could have been possibly where Herod slept when he was here. Over here we have a Roman bathhouse, and you see the top right there on top is a little bit gray. There is a dome, and this is one of the oldest dome ceilings that we know of and Israel at least. We can go in there and look at that. And you can see here just how the wall goes around. There's actually two walls, which you can see here. Two walls that are circles that go around here. Again, I pointed out the half cylinder towers. There's one there, one up here, and one over there. And then we have the full tower here, which, like I said, that's probably less than, or they think that's less than half the height of what that tower was, and there were balconies up above it. You see this group down here. Behind them are the entrance to the tunnels that the rebels and the Bar Kokhba revolt of 132 to 135 AD turned the cisterns here into hiding places and dug tunnels between them. And now we're going to go into there. So this is the entrance to the Roman bathhouse. You'll see here a cross, and that's because after the Romans were turned into Byzantine Empire, Christian Empire, that's some monks live here. Okay, now this is the part of the bathhouse. Again, I told you, the oldest dome ceiling in Israel, going back 2,000 years, and still here throughout all the earthquakes and everything was here. You can also see on the bottom here some of the plaster that was put up on the walls. The Romans didn't leave everything with stone in Israel. They wanted everything to look like marble. So a lot of times they would cover the limestone with plaster and then paint it. Yeah, you can see here. Here we're looking at one of the cisterns. You actually see the two lines on the side of the wall. That was a water level that was in here. And now this is part of the cistern, but where the light is, and you see to the right, these tunnels, the upper tunnel, these were tunnels that were dug by the rebels in 132, 135 AD during the Bar Kokhba revolt. But before that, you had these big cisterns. You could come in, they would fill through rainwater, also fill through bringing water up here. And could come get them, come through that porch outside that wall, come down these steps, take your water, and go out. Okay, this is a theater that they're reconstructing even now. Haven't finished the reconstruction. That Herod built here, seat about 400 or 500 people, looking north, looking to Jerusalem. Also, if you've ever been to a stadium, had to sit in the heat and the sun, this one you wouldn't have to because it's facing north. And we're now about 11 o'clock, a little bit, closer to noon. And you can see the entire seating section is in the shade still. Here is the building. This is one of the things I told you that just opened yesterday. It's got some different things. I haven't seen it yet, haven't been inside yet. But with a movie and some different things about Herod and what he built here.